Hello and welcome to Podsongs. I'm Jack Stafford and I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. Today I've got a friend of mine on the show. He's a specialist in sustainable and disruptive technologies, and he's the co-founder of Desolentator, a desalination system that just uses sun and water. I met him in India, but he's lived in UK, US, Poland, India and France. He's working towards a world without waste, with access to clean water, food and education for all. And he's got the energy to back it up. Let's welcome Alexei Levene.
I can't complain. I'm here in London, and I moved to a new flat a couple of weeks ago, and it's just very chilled. I'm in Ladbroke Grove. I'm looking out over a, rainy London day, but coffee in hand, and just the full throttle of work, man. I mean, it is all happening at once.
Well, tell me all about it. We've got an hour to fill now, so cry on my shoulder.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, obviously, we met each other in another world, didn't we? In South India, in Kerala, and I remember the first time meeting you, Jack, and we were on the top of a hotel in Trivandrum. I think it was.
That's right. Yeah.
And you pulled out your guitar and played everybody a song and got everybody in stitches. So yeah, obviously we're in different worlds now, but good memories. Yeah, well, I've been working on Desolinator. That started in my garden in India, in Kerala. I was there making some products and having some adventures, and I met William, who invented the original idea for Desolinator.
He had many things. It was like a real laboratory. No, it wasn't just Desolinator. It was.
Well, I did, yeah. So we made like a solar-powered electric bicycle. We made a thermophilic biogas system.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, we did.
What's that?
It's basically a biogas that works in a temperate climate.
Okay.
So it was particularly good for places like Bangalore. So you could have your cooking gas from a regular dose of cow manure.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
What happened to that? What happened to that idea? That sounds great.
Well, we got a few of them out. I mean, we were really more like a laboratory, so we were kind of getting things out, and I mean, it was very innovative time, but it was difficult. It's not an easy place to get things to stick, and we most of our work was on the experimental side, on the creation side.
The most fun part.
Yeah, the most fun part, exactly. I think so. And but we had a few successes. I mean, I did a few more commercial products while we were there. We made this thing called the Smart Buckle, which is everything you get in a Fitbit but in a watch buckle. The idea being that you could get smart features on your Cartier, and we launched that in America, and we sold a bunch of them, and it got me across to the Basel Watch Fair, which was I mean, I'm not a big watch guy, so it's a different world. So it was a trip, and but there was something when I met William, we were introduced through a mutual friend. And there was something very powerful about the idea, that you could take solar energy and create a high quality source of drinking water without any, consumable parts, without any chemicals, just have a system set up, and you don't need to worry about your water. And, of course, in South India, like many, many parts of the world, the water crisis is a big deal. I mean, I'd venture to say it's the biggest resource issue we're facing as a planet. So that was kind of the genesis, Jack. And I think we sort of met each other around that time.
Oh, and of course, I mean, there's plastic bottles as well. I mean, that's what you see in India when And I miss the smell of burning plastic now. I'm not in India anymore, you know.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? You remember kind of Friday evenings, sort of 6 in the evening, and you drive down the road to the beach, and the air is just thick with smoke from the
Yeah.
plastic burning. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that, sitting here in London, you barely think twice about these kind of things. You think, oh, it's going to be recycled, and the truth is that even in the UK, the very little percentage of recyclable plastic is actually recycled. But when
It's a
you
huge waste, isn't it? I mean,
it's a huge
all
waste.
that energy and then the trucks and it just doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
It doesn't bear thinking about. And the thing is, it's not a linear answer because, I would venture to say that for plastic, if we had a situation where we truly recycle, and there is technology out there, a friend of mine actually runs a company that does this. But if you had a way to take all plastic, always plastic, and recycle that, and then stop any new plastic production from fossil fuels, and would recover the plastic that's in the environment, that is the best way forward for us. So it's that, there's a misnomer that if we get rid of plastic completely, it'll be better for the environment. It won't. It actually, by recycling plastic, it's the lowest carbon way of solving that particular issue, in my opinion.
Mm. So what did so you sold the business then, or you got investors, or what happened? I can't
Well,
remember
with
the whole.
Desolanator, we started off with a single panel product, and we were building it in my garden. We had 4 dogs that my friends there. I don't know if you ever met Steve and Mary, but they run an amazing thing called Street Dog Watch, where they basically rescue dogs. So they kept giving them to me. So I had four dogs running around, and the local college students who we had helping us, they were of course terrified of the dogs. Our development was very hilarious. Often screams coming from the garden with some nosy dogs. But yeah, we took it to the furthest point that we could. I mean, with very limited resources, and we started, applying for a couple of competitions. We ended up winning a thing called Climate Kick, which is a lot. I think it's the biggest European competition for clean energy startups, and we won it. And really, then we were like, well, that gave us a grant and a space at Imperial College in London, and so we decided to kind of get set up as a proper business and out of the garage, so to speak. And we went from there. And we did get funding. I mean, at a certain point, we raised a seed funding round. Incredibly difficult for renewable products at early stage. I mean, there isn't funding available. I mean, you can pick up the odd grant here and there, but really,
why not? I mean, you thought that would be number one priority.
I think if you put yourself, so we're in a world where, if we were going to have the green industrial technologies of the future, like for recycling plastics, purifying water, but doing it in a clean way, you need investments to get these are large systems, right? To get them productized, there need to be grants of 10, 15 million, euros. Right. I mean, that's what it costs. And so at the moment, you can get grants for maybe a couple of $100,000 or something, which is great, but it just doesn't do what's needed. So, really, you have to look at venture capital at the early stages. And if you put yourself into the mind of a venture capitalist, you're looking on the one hand at a large industrial system that needs a lot of capital, needs time. Yes, the impact's great, but in their view, it's a big risk. Or on the other hand, you're looking at a software, blockchain or AI system where somebody's coded the first version in their bedroom, and you can know that if you put in a certain amount, you'll get to a certain amount of users, and it's just an easier investment. And we've got a market that is very skewed, incredibly skewed away from physical products, away from physical products that are sustainable. And as far as water goes, I mean, there's really very little there. So, but hopefully that's changing. There's, I think, a lot of, one would hope that I'm dating this now, but if there's a Biden presidency, one would hope that there's a big flow of funds into green innovation.
Because you went deep into that world, didn't you, of like fundraising and meeting all those, greeting everyone, shaking the hands, and I mean, what was that like?
Yeah. Well, I've done it before, and it's certainly very different in this kind of industry. But yeah, we went round. We met. You kiss a lot of frogs. You meet all sorts of people, and there's a lot for what we do. There were, even at the seed stage, there was a lot of interest. I mean, we had a lot of interest out there. But if people don't understand water, or they don't understand product, even physical products, and the supply chains and the distribution, well, they can't add value to you beyond just investment. It's very difficult to find the right people. But we kind of labored on, and in the end we met a guy who was really our perfect investor. He's the CEO of the largest desalination and renewable company in the world, and sits on about $60 billion of assets.
Oh my God.
And, he understood what we were doing. He got it because he's in the industry, right? He knows the technology. And he came in as an angel, and he's now actually our chairman, and has just been, I think, a great example for early stage companies, really focusing in on the right investor, and putting that emphasis and effort into finding the right investor who's really with you for the long term is just it's a very different trajectory for a business. There's a lot of benefit for an early stage company, that having someone who's such a well-recognized and well-regarded figure in the industry, who's personally invested, because like I say, I mean, he joined us as a chairman, and then he's really involved in what we do, and kind of invested in
his money where his mouth is now. I mean, that's
exactly
sends out a huge message.
And these are the people that we need, right? Is the action-oriented people who are going to take risks, and and really supporting entrepreneurs at the early stages when they need them. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it was good. So that was a couple of years ago now, and around the same time we'd met with various people in Dubai, including the Dubai Energy and Water Authority. They're the municipal water providers and energy providers, and they said to us, "Look, we get it. We love it, but you guys need to be building 1,000x the size." We said, fine, we'll do it, but you need to support us. And they did. And, if we shoot forward to today, we're going live with that first large scale plant now. It's actually going live in the next couple of weeks. So, and in between, we built a team. We've got our lab. We're based in Maastricht. We've got a small team in London, and we've got our first project in Dubai, as I say. Our second one is in India, in a rural area of West Bengal in the Sundarbans. And we're going to be providing water for an entire town there. So that's going live in April next year.
Oh, wow.
So and we've just, Jack, we've been able to put together this amazing team. We're 20 people in the team. We're 50% female. Everybody's mission driven. We're all excited about the transformative potential of this work. So, it's tough, and it's been really tough during COVID, honestly speaking, because we've been doing another financing round now, and it's been extremely hard, but very gratifying work.
Did you think it would take this long when you started out? If you knew, would you?
No. I mean, And making products is hard, and it requires a lot of investment and time. We could have shortened. We had the first couple of years where it was very much in playful prototyping type of mode. So it was only really in the last sort of few years that this has been a serious kind of going concern. But yeah, the truth is that that kind of early stage financial support for this kind of technology, it doesn't exist. So you're having to do really expensive stuff and find ways to make that happen. So that's what takes time, that could be really shortened in the right ecosystem, which sadly isn't here today, at least that we found.
So how does it work then? I mean, how is it different to other desalination? Even like there are some other solar desalinators. What makes it inside the box?
Sure. So, well, there's two ways of doing desalination. You've got membrane-based desalination, where you're basically passing water through filters, through membranes. And you've got thermal desalination, where you're basically boiling water.
You evaporate it.
Exactly. And we're a thermal desalination technology. So in the membrane systems, first thing is you need a lot of energy to push the water through these membranes. So actually, for reverse osmosis systems, over their lifespan, the biggest cost, including the equipment, is the energy. So that's a lot of fossil fuels, usually. I'll talk about solar in a minute. So that's one thing. The second thing is these membranes that are used, they need to be replaced. That they're not so easy to source if you're in a remote area. And these are very complex systems. They need to be maintained, and they use chemicals. They use really harmful chemicals to keep the membranes clean, to stop salt building up in the system and fouling. So what you're left with is a system that is reverse osmosis is a really good system. There's a lot of investment that's gone into it as a technology, so it's a mature technology. So it is good, but it's very polluting, and it has a very high operating cost and a high maintenance requirement, which is a real issue for many places in the world, like where you and I used to live, where you may not have that expertise and you may not be able to source parts. So in the case of saying, all right, we've got our reverse osmosis system, let's solar power it, that's fine. But, there's some challenges, because either you remember, you need a lot of energy. And so either you're running your system only during daylight hours when the sun shines, or you're building a very big battery. And if you only run it during daylight hours, then you've got your plant has downtime. So you get even more buildup of scaling and fouling in the system. I mean, it's just not workable. So you have to spend money on batteries. So in our system, what we do is we take a completely different approach. We've developed our own solar panels. We actually get 4 times more efficiency from our panels as normal solar PV, because we not only capture the electrical energy, which is normally about 15% of the potential energy that hits the panel, we get an additional 45% of energy from heat. So we run water through our panels and we actually capture both. So we're harvesting solar energy 4 times more effectively than from normal PV. We also store energy in a different way. So whilst we do use a small lithium battery, we've designed our own thermal battery. So what that means is that we can use hot water, store the hot water. We have a phase change material that we use in the battery, and it means that we can keep or keep running our system for 24 hours a day, albeit on low power mode in the evening. So that's great for maintenance, and it's great for overall throughput. And then we use a technology called multi-effect distillation, which has been around for a while. We've designed our own version of it, but it's basically a way of recovering heat at each stage of the process in what are called effects. So each effect is a stage where you recover heat. So when it's at 80 degrees or 70 degrees or 60 degrees, that's an effect. So, all in what we're doing is using that, capturing that solar energy, using what would normally be waste energy as a big part of what we do, heat. It means that we can run 24 hours a day. It means that we don't use harmful chemicals in what we do. It means that we can produce water in the right circumstances very cheaply. And it means that we've got all sorts of benefits around if your water source changes. So, imagine you're on an island and you're tapping a borehole for your water, and as is everyone else, and the sea level's rising, and your aquifer, your borehole, gets contaminated with saline water. That's it. So that's what's happening all over the world as sea levels are rising and aquifers are getting drained. Now, we, in our system, we don't mind, right? It doesn't matter if the water type changes. We're boiling it, and it's not an issue for us. But with reverse osmosis, it's a problem. If the input water changes, you need to re-engineer your system. So there's a flexibility in what we offer, and there's a low maintenance threshold and low maintenance cost in what we offer that means that we're much more suited for some of the more challenging scenarios that are out there.
So what do you do with all the salt that comes out?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. So it depends. It depends on the specific circumstance. The good thing is that because we don't use any harmful chemicals, unlike reverse osmosis, that our waste brine is clean. Now, one thing we can do is, which is kind of the baseline solution, is that we dilute it and put it back into the sea. So if we're taking water in at 35,000 parts per million, we might put it back into the sea at around 40,000 parts per million, something like that. So little difference. We can be very flexible as well in our system, because we can actually radically increase the concentration by recycling water through our system. We can really increase the concentration again, which sets us apart. And that's really interesting for what I'd call the future of desalination, which is a term called zero liquid discharge. So basically, this is an evaporation technology, and the idea is that you put your brine into this evaporator, and you can recover sodium chloride, you can recover gypsum, magnesium, and other minerals that are there. Now, we're really suited to this for two main reasons. One, because as I said, we don't use chemicals in what we do, so our brine is clean, which makes it much easier to recover stuff from. And the second thing is that increase in the concentration levels, because basically we've done a lot of the energy intensive heavy lifting that the evaporator needs. So it makes the evaporator more affordable, more energy efficient. So and imagine that, right? Imagine if you can take in water from the sea, create high quality drinking water from solar energy, and then at the end of it be able to recover commodities like salt that you can sell or you can use in construction material. I mean, it's really exciting prospects. So that's really, we're not there yet, but that's really where we see the future of this kind of technology.
And what about, do you have to add minerals just to it being like hungry water, because it can take minerals out of your body?
Correct. So yeah, exactly. So we create distilled water. And there are actually a lot of industrial uses for distilled water. You can think of field hospitals. It's a great cleaning agent because of its acquisitive nature for factories, for example. But yeah, you don't want to drink it too much unless you're doing some Ayurvedic diet for a week or so. But you really don't want to be. You don't want to. I know you're into that, Jack. You don't want to be drinking it for too long, because literally, if you drink distilled water, it just sucks minerals out of your body, basically. It's very acquisitive. So, yes, we remineralize that as needed. It really depends what the customer wants. But it's a very interesting area, because if you think about the minerals that are in water and how they potentially equate to health, you have quite an interesting research and development track, because at the end of the day, Swiss mountain water is a formula. And the tantalizing prospect of being able to have Swiss mountain quality water in a remote area where there is no traditional water source is very exciting.
I went round because from Bury St Edmunds, Green King IPAs from there. Very nice beer. All these breweries, they take out all the minerals from the water. They make this demineralized water, exactly like you're saying, and then they have these recipes to add the water, to add these minerals in. So when it says on the beer, only ingredients, water, yeast, wheat, or whatever, then they don't. In the water is hundreds of other ingredients to make this. So they want the taste of, because that's why they can brew all these same beers all around the world. They just have the recipes for the water. So even if you're not convinced by, you're drinking it every day when you have a pint, this remineralized water.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say it, because we actually work with two of the world's largest beer companies. So it's not in the public domain yet, but by the time this comes out, it will be. Carlsberg are actually funding our installation in India, and we did an installation for AB InBev last year in their brewery in the Canary Islands. And you're right. I mean, they're in the water business, right? The water is. Yeah, and we can provide a good chunk of their water needs from our system. If where one module is creating 250,000 liters a day, if we scale that up, we can provide maybe not all, but a good chunk of their water needs from the sea, or from what would normally be seen as no-go boreholes, for example, or saline boreholes. So. But the other thing that came out, which we hadn't really thought about, but which is very exciting, is that we found out we could actually recover over 25% of clean water from their wastewater. So water comes out of the brewery, it goes through 3 stages of reverse osmosis, and then it's put into a field to evaporate. And we can take that water and recover 25% of it into high quality drinking water. So that's exciting, because it also means that you don't really need those last 3 stages of reverse osmosis. So it's really important that as a startup, as a young company, who's ambitious, that when you're, we don't want to be in the charity bucket. We do want to do humanitarian projects, but it's much more than that. So that means you have to find areas of value. And that's in breweries and drink manufacturers are an industry where they really need us, especially if they're operating in water-stressed areas.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that some marketing guy will pick up as that as well, and you'll find it on the label of your Carlsberg, in partnership with Desolentator.
Hey, watch this space, Jack. We did make some Desolinator beer last year, so I'll share a photo with you. But
how was it?
It's all.
Do you remember? How was it?
It was great. It was great. It was really, really decent beer. It had a slightly sweet flavor. It was a really decent beer. We've got the bottle still, but yeah, it's well drunk. Apparently beer has a shelf life.
Don't get high on your own supply. That's what they tell all the dealers.
Yeah, I don't think that quite carries across to the beverage industry. When I first visited the Carlsberg brewery in India, the first one I visited, they have a lab there, and it was kind of the highlight of the tour at the end of a hot day, walking around the brewery, and you get to taste all the different beers and. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So no, there's a definite. If you work in that industry, they definitely know how to enjoy the fruit of their labours.
And so, are you building them in Maastricht, or is it?
No, this is a technology for hot places and for places with high irradiation
No, but I mean,
year
where's
round.
the factory then?
The alpha. So we have a lab in
Mm-hmm.
Maastricht, and that's where we do all of our R&D. We have built a supply chain, so we've got various partners where we source parts from. We do at the moment. We're doing all of our assembly in Dubai for the two projects that I mentioned, and really the idea is that once we close this Series A investment, which we're doing now, a big part of that is to set up a proper distribution center, logistics center, where we can properly kind of assemble things. At the moment, we're still doing this very much in a lean way, and it's we're looking forward to kind of stepping that up.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. Yeah, I'm looking on your website, and yeah, it's so well put together. You really.
Well, I mean that you're looking at the old website. I should share with you the. It's just about to go live. The new website, where I'll put it in the chat here. But it's coming together. Here we go. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. It's really starting to look good. So we've got some big announcements coming up in the next few weeks, and hopefully we end the year with a nice announcement about our Series A being completed, and looking forward to a Christmas holiday at some point.
Oh, sure, well, you've earned it. Well, I've got to write a song about this. So, any ideas?
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Any ideas? Well, I always point people to, especially we've started having some conversations with journalists, and they always want to know about me and the backstory and things like that. And I always try and point people away from me and towards the cause. There's 2 billion people today who don't have reliable access to clean drinking water. There's not a single serious scientist, that at least that I've spoken with, and I've spoken with a few, who doesn't talk about a 4 degree C temperature rise in this century, and potentially much earlier in the century than we think. So, really everything's up for grabs. And I think, one of the things that strikes me is that we're in a new paradigm now, and either you get it and you're doing something about it, or you're going to feel the effects of it, and it's going to come as a pretty hard landing. So I think that within that, I sort of almost see the beginnings of what we may hopefully call an enlightened community, and that could be, it could be a 16-year-old kid like Greta Thunberg. It could be, a corporate like Carlsberg who actually genuinely care about sustainability. It could be a technology startup like Desolentator. It really can be anyone, but it's about a shift in perspective. And that shift means not only about, what you do and where you put your money. We need to attribute value differently. So what do I mean by that? If I'm holding up 2 glasses of water, and one of them has been produced using fossil fuels and chemicals, and the other one, and it's in a plastic bottle, and the other one is produced using solar energy and without chemicals, why are these the same value today? Why is that the case? And I think you can say that for every product. I think you can say it for every service. You can say it for the micro to the macro. And I think this enlightened community, I think one of the big themes is going to be new ways of thinking about value, where our planet and our shared humanity, and the role of women and the plastic supply chain, these are all things that are consequential, and that we've got the technology to be able to attribute in the creation of our products for all of these areas. So that's really what I'm hoping for, and I think that's an interesting thing to sing about. What's stuff worth in the new world? What's stuff worth when we're underwater?
Oh, there you go. No, you're writing it for me. There you go. Do you think you could just put some lyrics down, maybe just like crystallize your thinking?
I've heard enough of your music, Jack. I know the kind of themes you go with. Yeah.
Oh,
I would love to
no.
put down some lyrics. I would love to. I'd love to get over there on a plane and come and jam with you. I've just got to close my investment round first. So I'm a big believer in non-contingent life, but at the moment it's a very contingent experience for me.
Mm. So how do you think it's going to? How do you see the breakthrough? Is it being like these big manufacturing for big industry, or is it going to be a small in your home, a small box?
Do you mean for Desolinator or
Yeah,
as a planet? Well, for
yeah.
Desolinator, so we're really focusing at the moment on our larger scale systems. So these are, these are industrial systems, right? I
Mm.
mean, a large scale project will be, the size of a football field. But you're talking about producing community level water. So that's
Mm.
what we're focused on at the moment. And for that, we really, we need to kind of get a few more installations out there. There's a certain point at which you can attract project financing. Because our system will last over 20 years and
Mm.
the operating cost is so low. You've got free energy for 20 years, 20 plus years. So, if we can get them financed, then I can go to a hotel in the Maldives and say, look, take the system, just pay for the water that you use. You'll pay less, it'll be
Yeah,
better
subscription
quality.
model. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, we call it water as a service. So that's really what we want to
Oh,
get.
that's
That's a
smart.
critical path
That's
to
a
this
winner.
product. That's a winner. It's just really tough to get to that point. But once we're at that point, really, there's so much opportunity. But getting to that point is no small feat, I have to say. But anyway, we're making progress. But then, yeah, we developed this household product. We're basically R&D guys. So
Mm.
we want to create more technologies. We want to do a version for boats. We want to do humanitarian versions, like really low cost flat pack things that you can fly in when there's a disaster, for example. And we'd also love to do some real showcase projects. I'm looking at something in Australia where we provide water for an Aboriginal community there. We really want to do more of these kind of, and that doesn't, that means to include corporates in that, right? It doesn't
Mm.
only have to be about hardcore business value. If you're positively impacting the local community and you've got a long-term relationship with that community and with the country, then that's also part of the bottom line, or that's part of the business bottom line is help being a good proactive member of society. So yeah, so those are some of the things that we've got in the pipeline, Jack.
I think that's enough now, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. Like we got some pet projects we're looking at, like but they'll be well into the future. But we'd love to get a gas tanker and kit it out with a large scale system, and then just sail it across. Whenever there's a disaster somewhere, and just start providing big amounts of water. But that's a bit of a dream. We'll see. We'll
no,
see when that comes.
shouldn't just be. I mean, the situation here in the south of Italy for water and for drinking water is that those solar powered water heaters.
Yes.
They're on the rooftops in Spain and France. Everyone has one of those. So there's this big barrel on top, and then these tubes coming down, and the water circulates. And so, by the time sun's come up 2 or 3 hours after sunset, you've got hot water for a shower and everything. So, but for drinking water, people they don't drink out the tap. It's got a taste to it. It's too much chlorine
Correct.
and nothing. And there are springs in every little town. You can go. You can go and people fill their bottle up from the village spring, but a lot of people, the newer generation especially, a lot of people are suspicious. They think there's bacteria in there, or it's not been tested, or might get a deli belly. So they go to the supermarket and they buy these plastic bottles.
Yep.
And they take home 2 6-packs, it's 12.
Yeah.
And bring them home. So which is just kind of crazy. I mean that.
It's not just there. This is what happens in America, right? You take a state like Maine, it's actually got some of the best water in the world. People won't drink the tap water. They hear about Flint, Michigan. They don't want it, which, by the way, is terrible. and they'll go to Costco, they'll buy these big boxes of plastic bottles, and then they'll have a water delivery service from Poland Spring where they get 5 20-liter bottles a month, and they come and pick up these plastic things. And it's really, for me, it's a coup by the drinks industry, the beverage industry, who have somehow got it into people's heads that the cleanest water comes in a plastic bottle,
which has never been washed. Had all the plastic dust in the bottom, whatever, when it was filled up. It's been out in the sun outside a factory somewhere in the supermarket. It's been exposed to heat and all the plastic. How many billion pieces of plastic you drink?
Well, absolutely, and if it's been out in the sun, then it leaches, and you get PCB leaching. And PCBs, unfortunately for men, are one of the main probable causes in our radical drop in sperm counts in the last 50 years. Because we're exposed to these, and they act like estrogen, and we're exposed to these constantly. And for plastic bottles in the sun, that's what happens to your water. But of course, from a planetary point of view, what happens to the bottle when you're done? In India, we know it gets burnt, but what happens in the UK? These things end up in the ocean. They get buried. In Holland they burn it for energy. It's actually a great source of energy. So if there is an argument for having that as a mix if you're doing lots of other stuff, but it's obviously not ideal.
It's radically unnecessary. I mean, like, if you think about it.
Yeah, we have the sun, we have wind. We have all the energy sources we need. And people talk about the problem of intermittency. The truth is that even today in the UK, there's more money being given in subsidies to the oil and gas industry than all of the renewables combined.
Seriously?
Today. Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God.
Tax breaks for the oil and gas industry. I don't know what the numbers are this year, but a couple of years ago, it was something like 10 billion to oil and gas in subsidies, and combined for all renewables about 500 million, something like that.
But do they need that? Would they not be profitable without that?
Well, you have to. Well, the profitability of oil and gas companies, at the moment is an interesting subject. But if we're talking, sort of in the not too distant past, these guys have made a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why do they need subsidies?
Well, but there's not all about need. Tax incentives. Setting up businesses in certain places and getting concessions, and there's a lot of. There are ways that you can incentivize business. And, I think the thing to look is that for any new energy technology, you look at the investment curve, and you can imagine for nuclear, from the time of, when the nuclear industry started to it being a mature technology, there's huge investment that's gone in. Same for coal, same for oil, same for gas, but if you look at the investment curve of renewables, it's nascent compared to these guys. Obviously we're a little bit further down the timeline, but it's still we haven't had the investment into renewables that's really needed, and in any way like we did in ratio with previous energies and old energies.
I guess it's opened your eyes before you're doing all this. You didn't know before, did you, about them?
Yeah, sure. You learn. We're learning stuff all the time. I think that the most interesting, but also I suppose shocking thing is that the people that we speak with from all over the world, rich, poor. I was on the phone with a guy, very successful politician, who's in Malibu Beach in LA. And he's telling me about his water bills, and he's worried about the future of water. And there's no water in LA. And then we were in the field in a tribal area of West Bengal, and people are telling us that there is the only water they can get has arsenic in it, and what else are you going to drink, especially if the water truck doesn't turn up, which is what's happening now during COVID. So the stories are different, but the themes are very much common everywhere.
I guess if there was somebody, if you had to buy air, or there's somebody probably selling you air, who wants to sell you, have air delivered to your house now.
Yeah.
If they could make money from it, they would.
Well, I actually think if you put it on Amazon, you'll find that this has probably already happened, because I think, if you're living in somewhere like Delhi and you've got a little bit of disposable income, you might want to have a little portable oxygen thing with you. I certainly would. But air is I'm friends with a couple of other entrepreneurs who are, let's say, in the air cleaning space, or there's one called a fantastic entrepreneur called Run, who runs a company called Breezometer, where he can tell you down to the last couple of meters the air quality and the pollutants in the air globally where you are. So it's really, really useful thing to have these days.
Gosh, yeah, you must be such an interesting life you're having now, meeting all these other startups and.
Yeah, it's not boring, Jack. I mean, honestly speaking, it's been, there's been little respite for me for quite a few years now. So I am, looking forward to a time in the future to maybe kick back a bit and do some writing and live my life a little bit more like you live yours. Creative and but it's good. It's a privilege, man.
Well, you're welcome anytime. You could come and sample the fresh sea air blowing off the Mediterranean Sea, or the spring mountain water, or dancing girls at the weekend.
Better be careful what you offer.
Well, it's quality of life, so I can't complain.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I get to chat to people like you through this podcast as well. So obviously I can chat to you anytime because you're a friend. But I think people have enjoyed. I'm sure a lot of people have got a lot from listening to you. And if they want to, how can they help? Would you want them to donate? Do you want them to apply for a just startup system, or how do you want people to?
I would say, it's really, I think the thing that we're interested in is just getting the subject of the water crisis kind of more in people's consciousness. And so, we're going to be coming out a little bit later this year. We've got a new website. We're going to be doing some PR. I would say the best thing to do is just to, follow us, go onto LinkedIn, go to Desolentator and like us. You'll see lots of updates coming. Please share it. If you know people who are interested, or you've got some ideas, we're always open. And I think that's really the best thing, is to really help amplify this kind of work.
Facebook and Twitter and everything.
All of that, yeah, exactly. We're focusing mostly on LinkedIn and Twitter, but we're going to start doing more Instagram, because we've got amazing shots from the field. These kind of otherworldly shots of our systems being installed. It really, they really look great. Hopefully, kind of in the next sort of year, 2 years, we're really going to start seeing some momentum, because we want to create a groundswell of people who say, well, hang on a minute, why are we not doing this here? And demanding it, because I think that's really the kind of the demand of people who've woken up to this paradigm shift. Why would we not want to have our water coming to us in a sustainable way, being high quality and being low cost and made near us?
It could become like a device you have in the home. You have the router, your water heater, and a desalinator or a water filter.
Absolutely. And Jack, if that home happens to be an island off Fiji, which doesn't have a traditional water source, your home's now just gone well up in value. So
fantastic, awesome, wow. Okay, I'm signing up everywhere. I'll get to work on the song too. That should help. That'll really going to make a difference.
No, it will. It will. It's. I've told the team that we're doing this, so everyone's looking forward. And really, really.
Bring on the pressure. Put on the pressure.
Yeah, you do. This is what you do, Jack. I'm really looking forward. And I think that the podcast format is great. By the way, we're looking to maybe do some podcasts into next year. I've got a podcast coming up this year, I think, with the World Economic Forum. So that'll be.
Oh, wow.
A nice thing. So it's been really fun experience, Jack, and great opportunity to catch up as well.
Oh, but likewise, you're ready to go. I've warmed you up for this, Nick, for the big time.
Well, I am actually getting on an investor call in 8 minutes, so yeah, I feel definitely warmed up for that.
To tell the same story again.
A little bit. No. Not quite the, a little bit more focus on what they want to hear about,
No, well, I really admire your energy and your stamina, and big round of applause.
Grazie mille, Jack. Thank you so much.
Okay, ciao, prego. Water everywhere, but most not fit to drink. Most of the world is covered by water. Do you ever stop to think? By 2030, half of humanity will struggle for a water source. Ironic, the rising sea levels will only make it worse. Think. Desolanator everyone. All you need is sea and sun. Desolanator purifies a sustainable water supply. Of stagnant water, disease and dysentery, or living at the mercy of the tanker man. But change their lives we can by purifying local water. The power's in their hands. Think. Desolanator everyone. All you need is sea and sun. Desolanator purifies a sustainable water supply. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to hear the song again, you can get it on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes, Apple Music, YouTube, anywhere. And if you stream 1,000 times, I can afford to buy a cup of coffee. If you really want to support the show, please go to podsongs.com and pay $1 for it, or €1, depending on where you are. Even if you don't want the download, send it to a friend as a gift. And if you could share the podcast as well, that would be great. Thanks to my musicians, Maurizio Sarnicola and Massimino Vozza, and my researcher, Dori Verbo. And thanks to you, the listener. See you next time.